Monty, you have been so instrumental in kind of pointing me in the right direction. And
it was about looking at your character defects in spirituality.
It's the integration of clinical practices with the 12 steps.
It's an absolute pleasure. He certainly knows a lot of people. He's got a lot of energy, and sometimes when you don't have so much energy, he picks you up and carries you.
Having the Monty Man there certainly helps.
This is one of the places that is about the business of the solution.
The views expressed on this special broadcast of the Take 12 radio show do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting or its affiliates. KHLT is not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
Now here's that guy who's getting less popular minute by minute, your host, the Multi-Man.
And welcome aboard, recovery family, to the Good Ship Recovery here at Take12Radio.com on your internet dial, broadcasting to you from the studios of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting, right here on the outskirts of beautiful downtown Albany, Oregon. Hey, listen, our email address is take12radio@comcast.net. And if you're listening on your smart device or phone, or you're listening on somebody burned a copy of the CD or whatever, our website is take12radio.com. You can type that in, the number or the word, doesn't matter. Hey, listen, welcome to the show. I got to tell you, we've gotten some great response with our cartoon caption contest, our recovery cartoons. It is in full swing once again for the month of May. Please go to take12radio.com, click on recovery cartoons, and there you'll find a cartoon with no caption. That's where you come in. And you decide what the caption should be, and just enter it in the little submit box there with your contact information. Please remember to type in your email and contact information. Otherwise, we can't credit it to you if you win. If you win for the month of May, you will receive a live DVD of Addiction, a Comedy of Substance, from recovery comedian Mark Lundholm, as well as a bonus CD called How Is That Funny? From Mark Lundholm. And we want to make sure we get that to you. We send that out to you right away when you win. And then you're entered into a contest for the grand prize in December, just in time for Christmas, of a basket of all sorts of recovery goodies donated by our sponsors and some fine folks out there that have just been so kind to donate prizes to that. So you don't want to miss out on that. Listen, you don't have to be a comedian to write a caption for a cartoon. It can be sad. It can be serious. It can be funny. You may think it's as stupid as all get out, and the judges here at Take 12 Radio may think it's pretty doggone good. So, you can't lose. It's for fun and for free, right? Right on. All right. Sam Davis is my guest this week, and he is the founder and owner of Broad Highway Recovery and Intervention Services, and we're going to be talking to him here in just a minute. But I want to move right into our sponsors and get the first half of this show out of the way. As far as our sponsors go, we appreciate them so very much. So don't go away, because when we come back, we're going to be talking to you again. We have spent some time on this intervention issue because it is so vital and so important. And we're going to get Sam's take on this and what they're doing out in Richmond, Virginia, and also nationally with a Broad Highway. So don't go away, okay? We'll be right back.
Origins Recovery Centers provides integrated inpatient treatment for substance abuse and co-occurring disorders. At Origins, clients receive expert medical, clinical, and spiritual care individually designed for their needs. Our clients leave Origins with the foundation upon which they will build the rest of their lives. Call now to speak with an admissions specialist. Our toll-free number is 888-843-8935. That's 888-843-8935. Origins, delivering real solutions for real families.
Hey, this is the Monty Man at Take 12 Recovery Radio. For way too long, the faith community and church leadership has had a misunderstanding of what addiction and recovery is really all about. Well, it's time we clear up some issues. Recovery Life presents Understanding Addiction and Recovery. an informational workshop focused on educating the faith community, clergy, lay people, and church leadership on the problem and solution of alcoholism and addiction. Friday nights, 7 to 9 p.m., beginning May 2nd and every Friday in May at Oak Creek Christian Center, 5775 Columbus Street Southeast, Albany, Oregon. Gender-specific recovery life groups and support meetings for friends and families will form during the workshops. For more information, visit recoverylife.org. Recovery Life, a community outreach for the Willamette Valley in cooperation with Oak Creek Christian Center.
This is Chris Schroeder. You are listening to Take12Radio.com, recovery talk and positive music.
All right, welcome back. And as promised, our guest this week is Sam Davis. He is the founder and owner of Broad High Recovery and Intervention Services. Sam is an interventionist that is well aware of the depth and weight of the pain and fear in a family member when the realization hits that what the family has been doing until this point hasn't been working, and that to continue on as is no longer an option. Sam knows the frustration of looking at the computer at the hundreds of websites, and believe me, there are tons of them, of therapists and treatment facilities wanting to pick the right one, but terrified of choosing the wrong one. He's aware of these things because he's been there on both sides. First, as an addict that tore his family apart at its core. Sam says, I was in and out of institutions, my kids' lives, and my parents' bank account. My values and morals took a back seat to getting high, even though I had the best intentions of being a good father, son, brother, and husband. My family stepped up, stepped in, and intervened with the help of a professional interventionist. Sam says that his family followed directions and held boundaries, and we're going to be talking about what that means. And as a result, Sam is sober today, and he is serving his fellow man in the capacity of founder and owner of a wonderful intervention and recovery service called Broad Highway. Sam, welcome to Take 12 Radio, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me, Monty. It sure is an honor to be on the show. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're loved by a lot of people, and there's some people out there that you really think very highly of you and what you do. Congratulations, man, on your own recovery from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Well done.
Well, thank you. You know, the age of miracles is still among us, because it wasn't that long ago that no one wanted to be around me. I didn't even want to be around myself. You know, a stray dog wouldn't even come around me.
Yeah. My God.
So it truly is a miracle.
Well, tell us a little bit about the mess. Just give us a little preview.
Oh, well, I come from a long line of alcoholics and addicts. Seems like every male in my family had been affected by the disease, and I was one of them. Started smoking pot at 12 years old, dipping into the family liquor cabinet. Escalated from there. You know, I come from a good family, and I didn't want for anything. I feel like I was abused. And, my mother and father are still together. You know, I've been married almost 50 years. Good family, like I said. And, but the longer I'm sober, the more I realize that I had this deal long before I picked up. But I had no way to gauge it. You know, I thought that everyone felt the way I felt. I thought it was normal. But like I said, the longer I'm sober, the more I realize I've always had this thing. See, before I picked up, I always felt like I had to prove myself for something. I always felt that I never measured up. I always felt that I was either above you or below you. You know, I act like I was above you, but most of the time I felt like I was below you. I never felt I was someone's equal. You know, and that was the ism. You know, and then when I first took that hit off of a joint, and it took all that away. You know, and that immediately became my solution. And I chased that for a long time, escalated into cocaine and crack cocaine, pills. I tried the methadone clinic to improve my life.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. In the meantime, visited a lot of jails and a lot of institutions. And when I would go to these little rehab centers, I always thought that there was the drugs that were my problem. And I'd have these plans and designs in my head that if I just stay away from the drugs, if I just move here, if I just move there, if I just focus on work, if I just focus on my family, everything will be okay. And the entire time, these many, many treatment centers that I went to, I never knew that it was the drugs were my solution.
Yeah. Wow. And you brought up an interesting point. You grew up in a healthy family. I did too. My dad was city manager of 20 years. That's a long time for a city manager in Petaluma, California. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. We were, a family of faith. It had all the earmarks of everything going right. And the first time I picked up, there was nothing wrong. I wasn't upset. I was curious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just it made what was going right even better. And I'm like you. I didn't know that I was adopted, so and it was a closed adoption, so I didn't have we had no way of looking into any history. So I had no way of knowing. I don't know that it would have mattered whether I knew or not, but the truth is, not everybody that struggles with active addiction, alcoholism, etc., comes from a background that's dysfunctional. True?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. The disease doesn't discriminate.
No.
It's, I come from a prominent family in a small rural town in South Virginia, and everyone was just baffled. Cause everybody knows everybody in a small town. And
that's right.
When I was getting into my worst, and the townspeople would see me, they would just they were just baffled. Like, why? Well, what is this kid doing? It wasn't a kid at the time. What is this man doing?
Yeah.
And a girl told me one time, she said, "You know what, Sam? You don't know how to live life easy." And I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. So.
That's interesting you say that, because my mom would always tell me, she says, "Why do you always choose the harder way?" And I didn't know. I hadn't had a clue. Okay, so your life is just falling apart because of this stuff, and it's not the substance that's the problem. It's the lack of substance, and the solution is the using, drinking, and so forth and so on. So what changed, Sam? What happened? Was there an event in your life that caused you to come crashing down, or what was going on?
Well, I was on probation for possession of cocaine. And I had done a little time, and I was still on probation. And, probation doesn't stop us.
That's right.
It really, I forget all about that I had a probation officer until it came time where I had to go in and see her and give her urine. And so I did what we all do. I had some fake urine, and I went in, and I was all gray. I looked like a mess, just a complete mess. And I was in there telling her about how great everything was going. And I was prepared to give a fake urine drop, and she said, "Sam, that's all fine and good, but you've got a problem," she said, and I've got a solution for you. And thank God for her, because a lot of probation officers do not understand our dilemma.
Yeah.
They have no idea what's going on. In my family, she walked me into another room, and there was my family, and there was an interventionist there. And God bless him, I love him to death. He said, "Sam, it really wasn't an intervention. It was, it was an intervention, but it was and it wasn't, because he just simply said, my family said nothing. They said nothing at all. And he said, Sam, you're dying. You've got a choice today. He said, you can go with me. You can go to Texas for a year, get sober, or you can go to prison today. What's your choice going to be? And I was so sick. I was so sick that I had to sit there and think about it. And my family was just blown away. They're like, why would he? What is there to think about? Because I'm looking out at this Lincoln that this interventionist is driving, and I've got the choice to get in this Lincoln with this older guy and go get sober, or I've got a choice, and there was a patrol car behind that Lincoln.
Wow.
And there were two deputies in there, and I had been in that patrol car before, and I didn't like that. I had been to where the deputies were going to take me before, and I didn't like that. But I was looking for options. You know, as long as an addict and myself think that I have options, I'm not going to get sober.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
So I was digging deep, looking for an option. What is my options here? And thank God I chose to go to treatment. Once again, walking out of my children's lives, it's just like something off of TV. I'm looking in the back window, you know, waving to them as I'm driving away. And I didn't know what was coming down the pike here. I didn't know what was in front of me. But I let out a sigh of relief because I knew that this was over. And I can't explain it. I didn't know what was coming, but I knew that was over. And there was some relief in that.
Wow.
And I go to treatment, and I go to treatment, and I'm there for a couple of months without anything in my system, no drugs, no alcohol. And usually when I would go to treatment, I would go to a 30-day center, you know, and I would find they take the drugs and alcohol away from me, and I would find my next go-to, which was a woman.
Right.
And I'd find one about as sick as I was, and off we'd go and try to fix each other.
Yeah.
Well, that never worked. Yeah. You know, so they take that away from me as well, and I'm 2 months in, and I am completely crazy. I'm not getting any better. I'm getting worse because I'm stuck with me and the root cause of my addiction. You know, fear, selfishness, self-centeredness, just that ick that we all can understand, that those of us that are, or those that are not addicts and alcoholics cannot understand. Those that are know exactly what I'm talking about. Just that restless, irritable discontent.
Yeah.
I was backed into a corner with no options, with no other thing to do except hit my knees. You know, hit my knees and follow some direction. And that was my first step. I didn't know it. See, I've done a lot of first step worksheets in treatment. You know, oh, well, you did your step one. Thank you. Turn this in. Sign your name to it.
Yeah, right.
Step one. You know, it's a first step experience, not a first step worksheet.
Yeah, thank you.
A true first step experience. You know, a lot of people say that I had, if you haven't had your last drink or your last drug, if you don't remember your last drink or your last drug, you haven't had it yet. Well, you know what? The last time I got high wasn't really a big deal.
Mm.
It was nothing that really, you know, shook the windows.
Right.
What I remember and what I never want to forget is that feeling that I felt when I was in that darkest part of that first step, when my life was just blowing up in front of my face and I couldn't manage anything. That was such a dark time, and I never want to forget that. I don't remember the last time I smoked crack. You know, it was, like I said, it was no big deal. That's what I don't ever want to forget, is that feeling.
Yeah.
That complete just destruction.
Right. Yeah, you know, we have something really in common there, because my last run wasn't the worst one. It wasn't the most paranoid. It wasn't the most horrible, but it was my last one. And it's really interesting you say that. Let me ask you, I'm just curious, do you feel comfortable in sharing what facility you went to in Texas?
I went to Burning Tree Programs.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
In Elgin, Texas, and it was exactly what I had needed.
Yeah.
You know? It seemed crazy, the things that they did and the length of time and all of the rules. But now that I'm out and after I'd had an experience through working the 12 steps, it all made sense. It all made sense. It saved my life. It got me in touch with a power that was greater than myself, and it restored me to sanity. It happened in that facility.
Let me ask you what you think of this statement. There's no power in the steps. The steps show me my need for a power.
Well, the first step certainly showed my need for power.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the steps got me out of the way,
Yeah.
so I could feel the power that was already there.
Right. Right. And the reason I say that is because I've watched as our prospective 12-step fellowships have evolved, so to speak, and I've noticed that people become step dependent instead of God dependent. They become meeting dependent, very man-centered instead of God-centered. And I've watched this happen for a long time now, and you know, God's bigger than our issues, obviously, and He's doing a mighty work within these recovery circles. But sometimes I wonder if our fellowships aren't in a little trouble.
Oh, I definitely would say that. You know, I travel all over the country for the work I do, and I hit meetings all over the country, and there are pockets of really solid recovery.
Yeah.
There are lots of pockets of that.
Right.
They're strictly out of the book, very big book oriented or whatever book oriented.
Yeah, sure.
And there are pockets of weak cups of tea, and I know I'm an alcoholic. Listen, okay, so I'm and an addict, so I'm full of judgment and opinions. You know.
Yeah, me too, buddy.
You know. So it's a huge judgment call here. But, you know, there's a gentleman told me, and I've never forgotten this, and it makes so much sense, is that there are two fellowships. I can be involved in the spirit of the fellowship.
Right.
Which I'm just white-knuckling it, going to meetings and hanging out in the rooms, 3 or 4 times a day. And with the fellowship of that. Or I can be in the fellowship of the Spirit.
Of the Spirit. You bet. Amen to that, man. Yeah.
You know, I thank God I've tapped into that fellowship of the Spirit. Thank God I had strong sponsorship and strong fellowship that helped me see the difference.
You know, it's really interesting because I spoke at a 12-step support meeting not long ago, and when it got to the part about turning my will and my life over to the care of God, and I was talking about step 3, I said, you know, here's the interesting thing. I said, you guys can do what you want with this, but when I got on my knees and I humbly asked God to reveal Himself to me, my Heavenly Father showed up. And, you know, people looked at me like I was insane. and I could tell the people that got that. But some other folks just looked at me like I totally lost it. But you know, I'm just so glad that God is not intimidated by our screwy ways that we try to still run things and control things, including our own recovery. I mean, I'm so glad. I'm so glad for that. And it sounds to me like you definitely understand that you cannot have a spiritual awakening as a result of steps that you don't work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
you know, you were speaking of the third step. That, you know, I can remember the first time when I honestly did that, and when I stood up.
Right.
I was in a place. I was a long ways from home. I was away from my kids. I was in a facility that I was just and the only way I can describe it is just And when I took that third step, and it started kind of immediately. When it says in effect, sometimes they're very strong. It's produced at once. It's felt at once. I felt that. I felt for the first time in my life ever, I was in the present. I was okay. I knew that God wouldn't have me where I was not supposed to be. I knew that for the first time in my life, I knew that I was exactly where I was supposed to be, and I was supposed to be there. And it was the first time I had ever experienced peace in my life, true peace.
Man. Well, what would you say to the person the intellectual, and give me an example. I've been to 4 years of Bible college because I thought after my near-death experience, drinking and driving, that if I went to Bible college and saved the world, that would fix me. It just got worse. But I went to 4 years of that, and I did a couple years of seminary, and became a youth pastor, and so on and so forth. And I had this head knowledge, this really lacking of a relationship with my Creator that I thought I was okay. I had this head knowledge, and it wasn't enough. I think the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous talks about that, does it not? About how it wasn't sufficient.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it wasn't that God wasn't sufficient. It was my whole idea of the whole thing. What would you say to the person that's got that intellectual relationship with God, and they just can't figure out why it's not working?
What would I say? It says in the book as well, and I've said this to people before. To be vital, someone with head knowledge, they're going to pray, but what are their actions showing? It says to be vital, prayer must be followed with immediate action. What are your feet doing? Never mind what your mind's telling you or what your lips are speaking. What are your feet doing?
Yeah. What are your feet doing? So what fruits are you producing? Nothing's being produced, then yeah, what's going on? Well, something to really look at, because there's a lot of, and you heard the promo for Recovery Life, this thing that we're doing here in the Willamette Valley, educating clergy and church leadership and people of faith about this, the truth about addiction and the truth about recovery, because a lot of people in the faith community they've heard a lot of weird stuff about the 12 steps and programs and so, and I get it. I understand, because we've kind of, those of us 12-steppers have kind of made a mess of, how we presented this thing. And I get where they're coming from, but it's important that people within the faith community understand what's really going on. And did you ever run into, in your work, do you run into to parents or loved ones that are people of faith that just don't get it? Because there's I just don't understand why. I mean, my kid was raised in a church or a synagogue or wherever, and they just don't get it.
They say that they're heavily in the church. He's been baptized. He's been whatever.
Yeah.
And he's still using, and they just believe he's just going to burn in hell. And I run into that a lot.
Yeah.
I explain it in a way that I just simply say, I try to keep things simple, because I'm a simple guy.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not a very complicated guy.
Right.
And thank God I'm simple. So what I tell him is that we need to simplify things for him. We need to bring it down, or he or she. We need to simplify it, and that's what the 12 steps do. It simplifies the ability for him to form a relationship with his Creator, a true relationship. And I truly believe that we've been, as active addicts and alcoholics, we're being conditioned to do a job for God.
Yeah.
And that is to help others. We've been given a unique gift.
Oh, boy, yes.
And all the pain and suffering that we have been through and put others through was just conditioning to be able to help others,
Yeah. No, I agree with you, man. 100%. In fact, I had a little discussion with a pastor friend of mine here recently, and he said, do you believe that God allowed you to go through all this stuff? And I said, you know what, I'm going to go one step further, and this might just blow your socks off, Pastor. I said, but I believe he was actually engineering the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was behind it all. And I think it goes more than just allowing. I think he engineered it.
Yeah.
And that was a little hard. That was a hard pill for him to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, listen,
I'm with you, Monty. I believe that. I truly believe that.
Yeah. Yeah. But what a wonderful thing. What a wonderful thing that for us to be able to take this thing and for you to be doing the work that you're doing. We're going to take a break. When we come back, let's talk specifically about Broad Highway Recovery and Intervention Services. What goes on there? And let's give some of the listeners who may be listening some hope that perhaps they've never experienced before. Folks, don't go away. My guest this week, Sam Davis, he's the founder and owner of Broad Highway Recovery and Intervention Services. And by the way, that website is broadhighwayrecovery.com, and you can look up here on the YouTube channel if you're listening or watching on YouTube. That information is all up on the screen, and if you're on the website, all the links and everything are right there on the website. So don't go away. More with my guest, Sam Davis, when we come back.
Men, women, and their families experience tremendous pain and suffering due to the struggles they face from substance abuse and its co-occurring mental health challenges. They need to find a safe place for peace and healing. Therapia Addiction Healing Center was born out of a deep desire to provide that safe and powerful healing environment. Therapia exists to help people recover from addictions by developing and maintaining healthy, meaningful relationships with God, self, and others. To speak with an addiction specialist, call 1-855-652-4325. That's 1-855-652-4325. Or visit our website at www.therapia.net. Therapia Addiction Healing Center, restoring lives one step at a time.
Whether you have completed alcohol treatment or drug rehab multiple times or have never been to any type of structured treatment program, the Benchmark Recovery Center offers a full continuum of care for addiction recovery. This is the Monty Man from Take 12 Recovery Radio. And may I recommend to you Benchmark Recovery Center. They offer an extended care recovery program for adult men and women struggling with alcoholism and drug addiction. Located east of Austin, Texas on 70 acres, the gender-specific 90-day residential program focuses on the 12 steps, life skills, spirituality, and fitness. After completing the residential phase, residents transition into company-owned sober living and 12 months of aftercare monitoring. If you're ready to learn how to live a sober, responsible, committed life full of promise, Benchmark is here for you. To speak with an admission specialist, call 866-905-4550 or visit the website at benchmarkcenter.com. Discover a life full of permanent sobriety with Benchmark Recovery Center. All right, welcome back, and I want to remind you of the Sober Portland Radio Show. It's a monthly show. You can go to our Tuesday link at take12radio.com, and that is sponsored by Sober Portland and Freedom Interventions. Matt Brown on our board of directors has been so generous to partner with us in that, and we show up somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. And we broadcast on location, and so check that out once a month on Tuesdays. Listen, Broad Highway Recovery and Intervention Services is a nationwide addiction intervention, recovery monitoring, and consulting company, and it is located in Richmond, Virginia. But Sam, you work nationally, true?
Absolutely. Have at it. We'll travel.
Yeah. And okay, we have been doing a lot on the whole intervention piece here at Take 12 Radio recently. Under our workshops link on our main page, we have Understanding Intervention. It's a 4-part series with Tony Messbarger of a Benchmark doing a workshop on that, and because we believe it is so vital that people understand this thing. But what is recovery monitoring? What is that about?
That is for an individual and for the family as well. You know, when a family, I just see so much individuals that are going through short-term programs or even long-term programs. You know, anybody can pretty much stay sober in treatment. It's when you get out of the door, day one on the street, when it matters. And the family generally doesn't know what to do. I like to think of us as kind of the real estate agents of the recovery industry of families. Someone will hire a real estate agent to help guide them through the housing market because families don't know a thing about buying houses or selling houses. So we guide the families through the recovery process because families don't have a clue what to do. And this is no fault of theirs. This thing doesn't come with a brochure when their loved one.
Right.
But the monitoring it's accountability and transparency. It's to so the family can do the family work and be a family, not be the cop, not be the handing a drug test over in the kitchen table, when a loved one shows up for dinner. It's not constant worry of what's he doing, what's she doing, is she going to meetings, is she doing this. It's letting the family be a family and letting that individual engage in their recovery and continue their recovery with a third party for accountability and transparency.
Mm. How does that differ from a sponsor, for instance?
Well, a sponsor doesn't generally get involved with the family.
Mm-hmm.
Mine did. I would not suggest that. A sponsor is there to guide a person through the steps the way that he was taken through the steps.
Okay.
But that is part of the monitoring. They're required to get sponsors. They're required to have meetings with their sponsors. They're required to attend so many meetings a week. I say, a meeting a day. I don't really do the 90 and 90 because a lot, in our mind,
yeah,
early recovery, we think 90 and 90. After 90, we're good to go. We're done.
Yeah, really, huh?
So if the individual is telling the family, say, listen, I need money for this, I need money for that. If he's in a sober house and he's calling mom and dad, or she's calling mom and dad and saying, listen, I need money for this, I need money for groceries, the family doesn't know.
Right.
We've got a third party saying, the family's calling us saying, well, Johnny's needs money for groceries. He's not able to find a job. Well, we're in contact with the house managers and the owners of the sober houses, and we're able to say, well, you know what? Well, Johnny's on the computer playing video games most of the day. That's why Johnny's been able to find a job, or Johnny's getting tattoos. That's where his money's going.
Right.
The family really doesn't know if he's going to meetings or not, and it's really to help the individual too, have accountability, because we're undisciplined. The book tells us that we are undisciplined, and when you're running through let's say a 30-day facility, you go in, you need detox. That's a week gone right there. You're talking about 3 weeks to change a life.
Oh yeah.
Systems and action. Not going to happen. So we're usually just as undisciplined when we leave treatment as we were going in. So it's to help guide them and give them some discipline and hold them accountable to keep moving them forward in their recovery process.
So, and when we're dealing in today with today's designer drugs, I discovered there's a new one called Gravel out there. Have you heard of this thing?
I have not. I saw on the internet where they're smoking bed bugs. I found out that was not correct, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were.
Yeah. Well, evidently this stuff is a combination of all sorts of weird things, and I guess it's chemical dependency. It is quickened. I mean, it's almost immediate, and of course kids are doing it and dying and everything else. But with the narcotics of today, we're talking about some stuff. I mean, like the dopamine levels in meth addicts don't even start showing back up till after 2 years? I mean, how is a person in their right? How can you go to a 30-day treatment facility and they want you to talk about your feelings when you don't have any?
Exactly. And how are you to be honest with a counselor when you can't even be honest with yourself?
Yeah.
You're still in a state of delusion.
So I am really for long-term treatment. I really am, and even 90 days may not be enough to even get a good foothold. you know?
Exactly. Yeah, and an old dinosaur in this field told me one time, he said, listen, it's going to take you 2 years to get your brain unscrambled and 5 years to get it out of hock. You know, and there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
You know, the longer you can keep somebody in under care, the better the chances for their success.
Right, right.
I truly believe in at least 90 days, and then transitional living after that while being monitored. You know, IOP after that, and continue to see a therapist, and then, you know, I also like to see them to do some intensive workshops after that.
You bet.
You know, once they're in a position, you know, if they've had, you know, addicts, a lot of addicts, alcoholics, a lot of us have experienced trauma, and we really don't even know we've experienced it. And once you've kind of gone through the work and had an experience and able to get to some honesty and some truth about things, and these character defects are starting to lighten a little bit, and you're a little more open to receive, let's go to a workshop, an intensive workshop for trauma, grief, loss, you know?
Right, right. Jamie Marach, I think I'm saying her name correctly, and Dan Griffin are two real good guys when it comes to the trauma thing. I've learned a ton from them. He wrote a book called A Man's Way Through the 12 Steps, talking about men's trauma. Boy, that's an issue we don't want to talk about, isn't it? I mean, you know, I don't want to tell you that, you know, I've been having sex with a sheep for the last 20 years because I was raped by my coach.
Exactly.
You know, but you're right. And I'm finding that, you know, I don't think I've ever met anybody that I've worked with as a sponsor that hasn't been through a traumatic experience.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's been anyone. Golly.
I was put through a trauma workshop, and it was around right after step 5. I was in the middle of 6 and 7. I was in a position to be able to be open, and they put me through a trauma workshop at the facility that I went to, and I'm like, I don't have any trauma. Yeah, right. Because I was thinking that the trauma was, you know, your loved one be bludgeoned to death,
right,
in front of you or something like that.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
It's really not that. It's really not. Well,
Yeah.
it is, but it's not always that. And when I went through that workshop, the door was opened in my mind and my soul for belief systems that I had been carrying around due to trauma when I was a youngster. I was molested when I was younger, and I operated out of a belief system that I formed around that for decades. And once that was tapped into, it affected every aspect of my life. And once that truth came in and that freedom came, I collapsed in the floor.
Wow.
Literally had been carrying that around for forever, and I was completely free of it. I really thank God for that. That, you know, that work that was done at that point in the step work for me truly saved my life.
Wow, that's wonderful, Sam. That's just marvelous. Well, take us through an example here. Okay, so somebody's listening to the show right now, and for whatever reason, some of the other shows haven't clicked, and something's clicking, and they're going, you know, I think I'll give Broad Highway Recovery a call. We're going to have the phone number up on the screen here. What can they expect to hear on the other line?
Well, my goal at that first call is to, at the end of that call, to at least have given them some hope that there is a solution out here. That to let them understand, I want them to see their current reality, and their current reality, they can get to that by saying, you know, I ask them 3 questions, I have them answer it. Has what you've been doing up until this point, has it worked? Okay? Are you in a crisis situation, and is doing nothing an option? That's their current reality. But before that, I want to ask them and get to what happened, what event has happened to get you to where you needed to call an interventionist today. and then I go backwards from there. And then I want to, I'm going to ask the family some questions about, what's the background? What does the family dynamics look like, and how have you been enabling? And also, where's the leverage?
Mm-hmm.
Where is the leverage? What have you been doing that has not worked?
Do families often, they're not even aware that they've been part of the problem?
A lot of families, do know.
They do know, okay.
But they don't know how to stop. They'll tell me. They say, "Well, we're paying his phone bill, we're paying his car payment. He's living in our basement, and we're feeding him." And they'll say, "Well, we know we're enabling."
Yeah,
I get that a lot. So it doesn't do the family any justice just to tell them you're enabling. They already know that.
They already know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm hoping that by the time this airs, we've got some kind of beginning to a solution in the works. I'm working with a young man right now that his poor wife and their little kids. I mean, they're not drinking or using or any of that stuff. So I mean, if he goes into treatment, he returns. He's not going to be coming into an environment right back into it. But she said, "Hey, sorry, you can't come in the house." And he's given her the, well, then I'll just have to sell my car so I can have a place to, all the stuff that the addict wants to attach himself to, right? To try and get. And she's very aware that she says, "I am not giving in to my codependent addiction one more minute." And so we're working on getting him in somewhere, but it's so frustrating because like right now we're not sure what to do while this process is being set up for him. It's the addict's MO to continue. I mean, he's ready to go. I mean, he's willing to go, but until that can happen, he's out getting money from somewhere to keep the addict alive. And you pray to God that the guy doesn't die before you get him help.
Right. And that's where God comes in.
Yeah.
That's when, we've got to understand that we are there to just take the action. We're not responsible for the result.
That's right.
And there's something much larger at play here. We're just little players, and I think with that young lady, I think she's doing exactly the right thing. It sounds like she's involved and she's working her own program and actually working the program, not just going to some Al-Anon meetings.
Yeah,
and,
right. Yeah,
she has to do what she has to do to take self-care for herself and to protect the kids.
Right, right. Amen to that. So okay, so the person is in your hands, so to speak. You guys provide transport, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, I never recommended the family transport.
Right.
I've had some friends of theirs transport under certain conditions. If it was the perfect conditions, we'll do that. But I believe in breaking that tie right there at the intervention.
Yeah, you bet.
They agree to go. The intervention's over. They're going with us. That way, because I've been in his shoes. I've walked his path. And I try to form I hope that when they've agreed to go, I've got somewhat of a connection with them. I've built some type of trust, and I try to build on that when we're on the way to treatment. Usually there's a plane flight involved, and some layovers at some airports. That gives me time to kind of talk him out of the trees, to kind of prepare him of what treatment's gonna look like, and basically doing that by sharing my story, continuing that connection. That only an addict can have with another addict, or alcoholic to an alcoholic.
Sam, what about folks that have been through the treatment mill maybe several times, or have gone? Well, yeah, let's just address that have gone through this several times, but maybe they have never come up against this serious of a thing that nobody's really put their feet to the fire this time, and they're saying to you, yeah, but I've done treatment 3 other times. How is this different? What do you tell them?
Well, if someone is a chronic relapser like that, I'm always push the family towards a 12-step completion long-term program, gender-specific. That is what I believe in. I like that, the chronic relapser like that, it needs a different experience.
Yeah.
And I explain to them that, listen, he's been to treatment 2 or 3 times. He can probably teach some of the groups. He's gotten a lot of knowledge. It's time to give him an experience. And then I've even had individuals say, listen, I've been to meetings. I've done the 12-step thing. So have you really, or the family will tell me, well, he's been in the meetings. He's done the 12 steps. I said, has he really sat down and done a formal amends with you? Have you seen it? Is he working with other people? What are his feet doing? Again, I say, well, what are his feet doing? Is he making amends to you? Is his behavior changing? Is it more about, how can he help you other than me?
Right.
And I try to educate them. There's a lot of education involved, to educate the families why that individual can't stop doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
And what's driving all that? The physical allergy, the mental obsession, and the spiritual condition. And I'm not a believer that relapse is just going to come along and knock you upside the head. Families will tell me, well, he's relapsed again. He's relapsed. And he went here and he relapsed as soon as he got out. I stop him and I say that I question whether he was really sober. He may have been abstinent, but was he sober?
Was he sober? Yeah. Big difference. Explain to the listeners the difference between being sober and being abstinent.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Being abstinent is just not having any chemicals in your system. You're still stuck with the ism. You're still stuck with the unmanageability. Being sober and being in recovery is actually it's just like the book talks about. It's a complete psychic change, complete personality change. It's getting out of ourselves. It's helping other people. It's being on time. It's being dependable. It's being compassionate. It's being kind. It's being loving. It's being helpful. It's adding value to other people's lives instead of taking value away.
And so this really reflects what you said in the beginning of the interview, that if I can put it in my own words, the alcohol, the narcotics, the sex, the food, whatever it may be, is simply an outward manifestation of an inward condition. It's the solution. It's not the problem.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And families so often think, if I just can separate the substance that they're abusing or the behavior that they're involved in from them, all will be well. And that's really a deception, right?
Absolutely, yes. So many families, he's been to detox 3 or 4 times. I said, well, in detox, all they've done is taken the only solution that he knows how to deal with life away from him.
Yeah, they haven't given him anything to replace it.
No. But he's walking out on the street, he or she's walking out on the street and walking amongst the family without any solution at all.
Yeah.
Mind is going to lie to him, not going to be able to differentiate the truth from the false, and he's going to go back every single time.
Yeah. Well, Sam, you're doing God's work, man, and bless your heart. To come from where you've come from and then turn around and give back, you're to be commended and congratulated for that. And our prayers are with you because I know, it's one thing, and I'm not criticizing anybody that's book smart and has gotten an education and is in the recovery field. I'm really not, because they're doing something that I can't do. But there is something to be said about those of us that have been there and are turning around and helping people be delivered from being there. And it's hard work. I mean, I know you go home sometimes scratching your head going, what am I doing? Right?
The first few that I did when I was on the plane coming home, and it was finally quiet. The client safely delivered the treatment. Everybody's okay. I'm sitting on the plane going home, and I'm sitting there going, wow, what just happened? How did this just happen? How did I come from that into this? It completely blows me away, and it is exhausting. It really is exhausting work. I used to be in the in my former life, before I got sober, I was in the timber industry. And, working, 12 hours in the woods is nothing to a difficult intervention.
Yeah. Pulling green chain don't even measure up to. Yeah. We got a lot of folks here in Oregon that do that. And they go, man, I just can't handle this. And I go, well, try the treatment and the recovery field for a while. You'll go back to green chain, I'll tell you. Wow. Well, Sam, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to spend an hour with us here at Take 12 Radio, really sharing the practical application of experience, strength, and hope. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Monty, for having me. Like I said, it's truly an honor. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you betcha. And will you come back with us again and give us an update on what Broad Highway's doing?
Anytime you ask.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Folks, the web address again is broadhighwayrecovery.com. You can follow the links here. If you want more information, please feel free to call the number that's on the YouTube screen there or on our website. And Sam will be glad to point you in the direction. If he doesn't know an answer, he'll point you in the direction where you can get some, and we'll certainly do that. Our email address here is take12radio@comcast.net. If you're real nervous about picking up that phone and calling Broad Highway and you just want to send an email, send them an email. And that email address is up here as well. broadhighwayrecovery.com. Please make a note of it. And, if you've never considered this before and you're struggling, I beg of you to consider it, whether you're a family member, loved one, friend, or you yourself just can't seem to stop doing the thing you're doing. We get it. We understand. We've been there. And we've tried improving this thing. There is a solution to this thing. Sam, thank you again. Stay on the line. A special thanks to Sam Davis and all the work that he's doing there. Please, folks, remember that you really ought to try and do something now that will make the person you will be tomorrow proud to have been the person you are today. But you can't do it by yourself. We're here to help. Sam's organization is here to help, and there is so many resources out there. We can point you in a lot of different directions. Please contact us here. Listen, evil abounds when good men do nothing, right? That's been said. That's a statement that's been out there for years. It is so true. All right, my friends, until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man along with Sam Davis. We're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty.